I never imagined I would leave my parents and sister stranded and shivering in the biting 14-degree air of Aspen, Colorado, while I sat sipping Opus One wine by my private fireplace. But that is exactly what happened just 15 minutes after my sister, Sadie, shoved me in the lobby of a five-star hotel, causing me to fall and crack the face of the vintage Cartier watch my grandmother left me. Instead of apologizing, she laughed and said I fell on purpose to play the victim. My parents laughed along with her, but their smiles vanished instantly the moment I whispered to the hotel manager, "Don't refund their rooms. Charge me the full amount, but make sure their key cards never work. I want them to stand in front of rooms they are forbidden to enter." I paid the full $39,000 for the entire trip without blinking, $25,000 of it for hotel rooms they would never step into. The total cost of my freedom was a shattered heirloom and a small fortune. My regrets were zero. To understand how I ended up watching my family shiver in the cold, I have to explain what led to that moment. My name is Grace Holloway. To the outside world, I am the owner of Holloway Design Group, an architect who recently closed a multi-million-dollar contract. To my family, I am simply the bank. The only reason I supported them for the past 10 years was a promise I made to my grandmother before she died of cancer. She held my hand, fastened her vintage Cartier tank watch onto my wrist, and said, "Grace, you are the strongest one. Promise me you will keep this family from falling apart, at least until your parents are old." Because of that promise, I paid for Sadie's car lease, cleared my parents' debts, and let them live rent-free in the apartment I owned. I wore that watch every single day as a reminder of my responsibility. Its weight on my wrist was constant, familiar, grounding. The blued steel hands moved relentlessly forward, marking time I would never get back. Hours spent working late to fund a family that saw me as nothing more than a convenient ATM. For my parents' 35th wedding anniversary, I covered the entire $39,000 cost of a trip to Aspen. I booked everything myself, the flights, the resort, the dinner reservations at Matsuhisa. I genuinely wanted to do something nice. I wanted, foolishly, to believe that generosity might finally earn me the same affection they freely gave Sadie. On the flight to Colorado, I booked first class for the whole family. The cabin smelled of leather and expensive cologne. I settled into my window seat, my laptop bag tucked neatly under the seat in front of me, already reviewing the hotel check-in process. I had color-coded confirmation emails. I had printed backup reservations. I was prepared for everything, except what actually happened. When the flight attendant arrived with a tray of vintage champagne and delicate flutes, Sadie, who was filming a vlog on her phone, leaned over from the seat beside me and snatched the glass from my hand before I could take a sip. "Drink water, Grace. Your face gets red and it looks bad on camera," she said, without even looking at me. She angled her phone to capture the champagne flute, the bubbles catching the overhead light. "Let me hold this for the aesthetic." She deliberately framed the shot so I didn't exist. I watched her film herself pretending to sip champagne she wouldn't actually drink. Sadie never consumed calories she couldn't monetize, while I sat there with empty hands. In the row ahead, my mother unwrapped a gift Sadie had just given her, a Dior silk scarf, dove gray with delicately embroidered edges. Mom held it up to the light, cooing as if Sadie had handed her the Hope Diamond. "Oh, Sadie, you always have the best taste. You're so thoughtful." She draped the scarf around her neck, admiring herself in her phone camera. Then she added casually, "Unlike Grace, she makes so much money but is so dry. She never buys anything for her mother with any heart." The words hit like a slab of concrete. Dry, heartless. I had paid for the seats they were sitting in, the trip they were taking, and the roof over their heads for the past decade, but somehow I was the heartless one. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out. American Express notification. Transaction approved. $850 at Dior Boutique. Supplementary cardholder, Grace Holloway. I stared at the screen, then at my mother, stroking the scarf with reverent fingers, then at Sadie, now panning her camera across the first-class cabin, narrating in her breathy influencer voice about treating yourself to luxury. She had bought our mother a gift using my credit card and was now being praised for her thoughtfulness while calling me heartless. The flight attendant returned, her expression professionally neutral, but her eyes kind. She had seen everything: the champagne theft, my mother's casual cruelty. She leaned down and whispered, "Miss Holloway, would you like me to bring you a fresh glass?" I looked up at her. She was young, maybe 25, her hair pulled into a tight bun, her name tag reading Jennifer. She didn't have to be kind. It wasn't her job to notice when someone was being mistreated by their own family. "No, thank you," I said quietly. I put on my noise-canceling headphones and closed my eyes. Outside the window, clouds stretched endlessly white and untouchable. I wasn't angry yet. I was just utterly, devastatingly disappointed. The Cartier watch ticked steadily on my wrist, counting down the seconds I would finally understand that some promises are not worth keeping. After we landed, the shift from the pressurized warmth of the cabin to the brutal reality of the Colorado mountains was instant. The cold didn't welcome us at the Aspen tarmac. It attacked us, a wall of biting 14-degree air that froze my breath in my lungs before I even reached the terminal. My family gathered around baggage claim while Sadie filmed herself against a backdrop of ski equipment and fur-trimmed parkas. Just landed in Aspen, winter wonderland vibes. Can't wait to show you guys the resort. I excused myself to find the restroom, wheeling my carry-on behind me. If you're enjoying the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon. The airport bathroom was unexpectedly elegant, with marble sinks, soft lighting, and the faint scent of cedar. I set my bag against the wall and turned on the faucet, letting cold water run over my hands. That was when I heard Sadie's voice from inside one of the stalls, sharp and panicked. "Don't worry, I'll get that setting," she hissed into her phone. "The master suite at the Little Nell has a jacuzzi tub overlooking the mountains. I already signed the contract with that lingerie brand. If I don't post the photos by Monday, they'll sue me for breach of contract." I froze, the water still running over my hands. She kept talking. "The lighting is perfect for the shoot. I scouted it online. My agent already sent them mock-ups with that exact bathroom. If I don't deliver, I'm screwed. The contract is for $1,500, and I already spent it." I slowly turned off the faucet. The master suite. She hadn't asked if she could stay there. She had simply assumed it. She had already decided that the best room would belong to her. She had signed contracts, made promises to sponsors, and built an entire business plan around a room I was paying for, on a trip I had organized, without once considering that I might want something for myself. I dried my hands carefully, studying my reflection in the mirror. My face looked tired, like someone who had been running on empty for years and was only just beginning to notice. When Sadie stepped out of the stall, she jumped when she saw me. "Grace, you scared me." She tucked her phone into her purse. "How long have you been standing there?" "Just washing my hands," I said evenly. She looked at me for a moment, then shrugged and turned to the mirror, pulling out her lip gloss. "Can you believe how cold it is? I'm definitely getting hot stone massages every day. You booked the spa package, right?" "I booked everything," I said. "Perfect." She smacked her lips together. "Okay, let's go. I want to get to the hotel and start shooting before the light changes." We arrived at the Little Nell 30 minutes later in a black SUV I had arranged. The hotel rose against the mountain like something out of a dream, all stone and timber, with floor-to-ceiling windows reflecting the snow-covered peaks. The lobby was breathtaking, with soaring ceilings, a massive fireplace crackling with real wood, and marble columns gleaming beneath crystal chandeliers. Mr. Murphy, the general manager, greeted us personally. He was in his 50s, silver-haired, with the calm competence of someone who had spent decades managing the ultra-wealthy and their drama. "Miss Holloway," he said, extending his hand to me, not to my father, not to my mother, but to me, because he had done his research and knew exactly who was paying the bill. "Welcome to the Little Nell. We have your rooms ready." He gestured to the front desk where 4 keycards waited in small paper sleeves, each embossed with the hotel logo. Sadie lunged forward immediately, her hand shooting out to grab the card labeled Master Suite. I caught her wrist. "No, Sadie." She stared at me as if I had spoken a foreign language. "What?" "You didn't pay for this trip," I said, my voice low and steady. "The master suite is mine. You can take one of the deluxe rooms downstairs." Her expression changed instantly. The Instagram smile vanished, replaced by something ugly and desperate. Don't be so selfish. You don't even take photos. I need that room. That's not my problem. Give it here." She lunged at me, grabbing the strap of my Bottega Veneta bag where I had tucked the keycards for safekeeping. I instinctively held the bag tight, pulling back. "Sadie, stop." We struggled for a moment right there in the middle of the lobby, her perfectly manicured nails digging into the leather. My shoulder twisted as she yanked harder. People were staring now, well-dressed guests pausing mid-step, a couple at the concierge desk turning to watch. Then Sadie did something I will never forget. She smirked, and then she let go with full force, a deliberate shove that sent me stumbling backward. The sudden loss of resistance threw my balance. My Louboutin heels, elegant but impractical, slipped on the polished marble floor. I fell hard, my left wrist slamming violently into a marble column before I hit the ground. The impact echoed through the lobby, sharp and unforgiving. I looked down at my wrist, at my grandmother's watch. The sapphire crystal, once clear and proud, had shattered into a spider web of white cracks. At the point of impact, the glass was completely broken, exposing the Roman numeral dial beneath, now scarred by jagged debris. The blued steel hands were bent at unnatural angles, frozen forever at 4:25 p.m., the exact moment everything broke. Tiny shards of crystal scattered across the cold marble floor, glittering, beautiful, and cruel. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't hear anything except the ringing in my ears and the pounding of my own heart. The watch face was destroyed. The promise was destroyed. I looked up at Sadie. She wasn't scared. She wasn't apologetic. She rolled her eyes dramatically, already performing for an invisible audience. "Oh my God, you are so clumsy," she laughed loudly. "I didn't even touch you. You threw yourself on the floor to play the victim. Stop acting like a martyr and give me the key." My mother's voice cut through the lobby. "Grace, get up. Don't embarrass the family." She glanced around at the watching guests, her face tight with embarrassment, not at Sadie's behavior, but at mine for causing a scene. "It's just an old watch. Buy a new one." Just an old watch, my grandmother's last gift to me, the symbol of a promise I had sacrificed everything to keep, the weight I had carried on my wrist for 10 years. Just an old watch. Something inside me fractured more deeply than the shattered crystal. Mr. Murphy moved before I could fully process what was happening. He appeared at my side with 2 large security guards, their presence sudden and authoritative. They didn't address my family. They didn't ask Sadie what happened. Their attention was entirely on me. "Miss Holloway," Mr. Murphy said quietly, offering his hand to help me up, his grip firm and professional. "Are you injured?" I let him pull me to my feet. My wrist throbbed where it had struck the column, but nothing felt broken, just bruised. Just shattered. "I'm fine," I said automatically. "Our high-definition cameras in the lobby recorded the entire incident," Mr. Murphy continued, his voice low enough that only I could hear. He subtly gestured toward the discrete cameras mounted near the ceiling. "I have instructed security to secure the footage in our legal archive. If your attorney requires it for assault charges, it will be available." The words "cameras" and "lawyer" hung in the air like a live wire. I watched the color drain from Sadie's face. Her mouth opened, then closed. For the first time in her life, she had nothing to say. Still, she didn't apologize. She simply stood there, betting on my passivity, counting on me to do what I always did, smooth everything over, pay for the damage, and pretend nothing happened. She was counting on me to be the bank, dependable, foolish, and endlessly forgiving. I looked down at the broken watch. Tiny shards of crystal still clung to the bezel, catching the chandelier's light above. The hands were frozen at 4:25 p.m., the exact moment the promise shattered. My grandmother had asked me to keep the family together, but she had never known this version of them, the version that laughed when I bled, that took and took until there was nothing left of me but an open wallet and a broken watch. The promise had fractured along with the glass face. "Thank you, Mr. Murphy," I said. My voice sounded different, colder, clearer. "Please keep that footage secure. Don't release it yet. My lawyer will be in touch." Sadie's eyes widened. "Grace, come on."
"Don't be dramatic." "Step back, please," one of the security guards said to her. Not aggressively, but firmly. A wall of professional politeness that still made it clear she needed to stop talking. My father finally spoke, his voice booming across the lobby. "Grace, this is ridiculous. Your sister didn't mean anything by it. You're blowing this out of proportion." I turned and looked at him. Really looked at him. Aiden Holloway still carried the posture of a man who expected the world to bend to his will. He had declared bankruptcy twice, failed at 3 different businesses, and was currently living rent-free in an apartment I owned. Yet he still spoke with the authority of someone who had never faced consequences. Blowing it out of proportion, I repeated slowly. She destroyed an irreplaceable family heirloom and laughed about it, but I'm the one being dramatic? It was an accident, my mother added quickly. Sarah Holloway clutched her new Dior scarf, the one I had unknowingly paid for, as if it could shield her from the tension crackling through the lobby. Sadie would never hurt you on purpose. I almost laughed. Would never hurt me on purpose, as if the past 10 years hadn't been a masterclass in casual cruelty, as if every cutting remark, every exploitation of my money, every moment of being treated like an ATM with legs hadn't been deliberate. Mr. Murphy, I said, turning my back on them, I'd like to speak with you privately at the front desk. Of course, Miss Holloway. I walked away, my heels clicking against the marble. Each step felt lighter than the last, as if I were shedding weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. Behind me, I heard Sadie hiss something to our parents, but I didn't turn around. Mr. Murphy guided me to the far end of the front desk, away from the other guests. The young woman at the computer discreetly stepped aside to give us privacy. I apologize for the disturbance, he said quietly. You have nothing to apologize for. I placed my bag on the counter and pulled out my phone. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Of course. If I wanted to ensure that those 3 people never set foot in the rooms they're supposed to be staying in, could you make that happen? Mr. Murphy didn't blink. He had likely heard stranger requests. The reservation is under your name, Miss Holloway. You have full authority over the rooms. Even though we're past the 24-hour cancellation window? Cancellation policies exist to protect the hotel's revenue, he said carefully. If you're willing to pay for the rooms whether they're occupied or not, then the rooms are yours to do with as you wish. I studied him. He understood exactly what I was asking, and in the careful language of high-end hospitality, he was telling me he would help me. How much would it cost to pay for all 4 rooms but only use one? He typed rapidly. The 2 additional rooms total approximately $14,000 for the 3-night stay. Combined with your master suite and incidentals, the total would be approximately $25,000. $14,000 to leave my family out in the cold? I thought of my grandmother holding my hand in her hospital bed, of the promise I had made, of the watch now broken beyond repair. Then I thought of Sadie laughing as I fell, my mother calling me heartless while wearing an $850 scarf I paid for, my father telling me I was dramatic while living rent-free on my generosity. I removed my American Express Black Card and placed it on the counter. Charge the full amount, I said, but I want only one key card to work, mine. Mr. Murphy picked up the card, his expression neutral. Understood, Miss Holloway. Will there be anything else? Yes, I said. Deactivate the other 2 key cards immediately. If they ask why they don't work, tell them to speak with me directly. The corners of his mouth twitched, not quite a smile. It would be my pleasure. I stayed at the front desk while my family hovered near the luggage, about 20 feet away. They could see me talking, see me hand over my card, but they couldn't hear a word. My mother kept glancing over, irritation etched across her face. Sadie stood with her arms crossed, tapping her foot. My father checked his watch repeatedly, like a man accustomed to others rushing for him. Mr. Murphy swiped my card with practiced efficiency. Regarding the remaining 2 rooms, Miss Holloway, I must remind you that the cancellation policy means there are no refunds at this point. I met his gaze. This was the point of no return. Mr. Murphy, you misunderstand. I don't want a refund. He waited, unflinching. Please charge the full $25,000 to my American Express Black Card. I am happy to pay it. He absorbed the information without visible reaction, as if he understood that money at this level was not just about comfort, but about outcomes, control, distance, freedom. I am paying for privacy, I continued evenly. I want those 2 rooms to remain empty. Deactivate their keycards immediately. Do not allow anyone, especially those 3, to enter. I am paying $14,000 so those rooms stay locked and unused. Do you understand? He paused for 3 seconds, then nodded with professional respect. Understood, Miss Holloway. The rooms are paid for and sealed.
The transaction processed smoothly. I watched the screen. $25,000. Charged, approved, done. He returned my card along with a single key card in a paper sleeve. Your master suite is on the 5th floor, room 512. The elevators are to your left. Is there anything else I can assist you with? Actually, yes. I slipped the key card into my bag. When they realize their cards don't work and come back demanding answers, what will you tell them? I will inform them there was an issue with their reservation and direct them to you as the primary account holder. Perfect. I turned and walked towards the elevators where my family was already waiting with their luggage. They had clearly decided to head up without me, assuming I was handling a minor billing issue. Sadie was aggressively swiping her card against the elevator reader. The light flashed red. She swiped again. Red. Again. Red. This stupid elevator is broken, she snapped, slamming the card against the reader. My mother tried her card. Red light. My father tried his. Red light. I walked over calmly, my heels clicking against the marble floor. All three of them turned to look at me. The elevator isn't broken, Sadie said irritably. Our cards aren't working. They must be defective.
Go tell them to make new ones. I pulled out my key card and swiped it across the reader. Beep. Green light. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime. I stepped inside alone and turned to face them. They stood there in the lobby, surrounded by their luggage, confusion slowly giving way to suspicion. It's not broken, I said calmly. I deactivated everyone else's keys. The doors began to close. For a second, they just stared at me through the narrowing gap. Then reality hit. My father's face turned purple. He lunged forward, trying to wedge his hand between the closing doors, but he was too late. The elevator sealed shut with a definitive click. I pressed the button for the 5th floor and watched the numbers rise. 1, 2, 3. My heart was pounding, not with fear, with something else, something dangerously close to exhilaration. Ding! 5th floor. I stepped into a quiet hallway, thick carpet muffling my footsteps. Room 512 sat at the end of the corridor. I unlocked the door and walked inside. The master suite was breathtaking, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking snow-covered mountains, a king-size bed dressed in crisp white linens, a sitting area with a fireplace already burning, and yes, a jacuzzi tub in the bathroom, positioned perfectly to take in a view that likely cost more per night than most people's rent. I set my bag down and walked to the window. Snow drifted down in soft, lazy flakes. Skiers cut through the slopes below, tiny figures carving through fresh powder. My phone started vibrating immediately. I checked it. 17 missed calls, texts pouring in. Mom, where are you? Dad, this is unacceptable. Come down here right now. Sadie, are you kidding me, Grace? This isn't funny. Sadie, I have a contract. I need that room. Mom, your father is talking to the manager. You can't do this to us. I muted the notifications and opened my banking app instead. American Express allowed full control over supplementary cards. I pulled up the account. 3 names appeared. Aiden Holloway, Sarah Holloway, Sadie Holloway. I selected all 3 and tapped Deactivate Card. A warning appeared. Are you sure? This action will immediately cancel all purchasing power for these cardholders. I tapped Confirm. Transaction processed. Cards deactivated. My phone immediately started ringing again. I ignored it and called my lawyer instead. Richard answered on the second ring. Grace, aren't you supposed to be on vacation? I need you to file a notice of termination of tenancy for the Chicago apartment, I said, first thing Monday morning. Silence. The apartment your parents are living in? He asked. Yes, 30-day notice, exactly as the lease allows. I want it in writing, certified mail. May I ask what happened? My sister destroyed my grandmother's watch and laughed. My parents took her side. I'm done, Richard. Filed the paperwork. Understood. Anything else? Yes, put the apartment on the market. I want it listed the moment they're out. I'll have it ready, he said, then paused. Grace, are you sure? I looked around the suite, at the fire, at the view, at the bottle of Opus One waiting on the table. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I'll handle it, he said. I ended the call and poured myself a glass of wine. The Opus One was smooth and rich, tasting exactly as expensive as it was. I settled into the leather chair by the fireplace and, for the first time in years, let myself breathe. My phone buzzed again, a call this time. Sadie. I answered and put it on speaker. Grace, she shrieked, panic bleeding through her voice.
What is going on? Our cards aren't working. I know, I said calmly, taking another sip of wine. I deactivated them about 10 minutes ago. You can't do that. Actually, I can. They're supplementary cards on my account. But I need, she stammered. I have expenses. I have bills. Then I suggest you pay them with your own money. I don't have money. You know that. That sounds like a personal problem. My mother's voice cut in, sharp and desperate. Grace Elizabeth Holloway, you stop this right now. Your father and I need those cards. How are we supposed to eat? The same way everyone else does. With money you earn. We're your parents, my father roared. You owe us. I laughed. Actually laughed. I don't owe you anything. I paid your rent for 10 years, cleared your debts, funded your lives while you called me dry and heartless. I'm done. You can't just kick us out, Sadie screamed. Where are we supposed to go? I don't know, I said pleasantly. And by the way, I just spoke to my lawyer. You have 30 days to move out. The apartment is being sold. Silence. Then my mother started crying. Grace, please, we're family. Family doesn't destroy irreplaceable heirlooms and laugh. Family doesn't exploit someone for a decade and shame them for saying no. You made your choices, I'm making mine. What about the hotel? My father demanded. We don't have anywhere to sleep. That's not my problem. I paid for the rooms. I just paid to keep them empty. This is insane, Sadie screamed. You're being psychotic. No, I replied calmly. I'm being rational for the first time in 10 years. I paused. Oh, and Sadie, that lingerie contract you plan to shoot in this sleet, you should probably call your agent. Breach of contract lawsuits can get expensive. She gasped. She remembered the bathroom. How did you… I suggest you start saving for a moving truck instead of a ski pass, I coldly said. Grace, I hung up. The suite fell silent, fire crackling, snow drifting past the windows. I stood, walked into the bathroom, and started filling the jacuzzi tub.
As I passed the mirror, I caught sight of my wrist, already blooming with deep purple bruises where it hit the column. The watch was gone, but the weight was gone too. If you learned something from this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. You'll find new stories like this every day. The Cartier watch hung loosely on my wrist, its broken crystal catching the light, the frozen hands permanently marking 4:25 p.m. I unclasped it carefully and set it on the marble counter. Without it, my wrist felt lighter, bare, free. The cost of my freedom? One shattered heirloom, $39,000, and a family that never truly loved me anyway. My regrets? None. None. Zero. Time inside the master suite stopped being measured by hours or schedules, and instead by the steady accumulation of snow on the balcony and the shifting angle of light across the mountains. For 72 hours, the outside world simply ceased to exist. I ordered room service at odd hours, steak frites, champagne and oysters for dinner, and watched the snow gather on the mountains through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The silence was intoxicating. No manufactured crises, no guilt trips disguised as family dinners. Just me, the crackling fireplace, and a level of peace I hadn't felt in years. I didn't think much about where my family had gone until checkout, when Mr. Murphy casually mentioned they'd taken a Greyhound to a motel 2 towns over. Apparently, none of them had enough cash left for even the cheapest Aspen accommodation after their shopping spree. The image of Sadie, who once spent 20 minutes complaining that her latte foam wasn't Instagram-worthy, riding a bus to a roadside motel made me smile into my coffee. The real chaos began when I landed back in Chicago. My phone exploded with notifications the moment I turned off airplane mode. Texts from former college friends I hadn't spoken to in years. DMs from professional contacts. Even my hairdresser sent a concerned message. All of them had seen Sadie's livestream. I watched it once, my jaw tightening with every word. There she was, tear-stained and trembling in that awful motel room, spinning a story about her abusive older sister who had abandoned elderly parents in a blizzard and physically assaulted her in a hotel lobby. She even managed to weave in some nonsense about me being jealous of her successful influencer career.
The comments were vicious, strangers calling me a monster, demanding I be canceled. Some particularly creative individuals had already found my business Instagram and were leaving one-star reviews they'd never actually experienced. I felt the old instinct rise, the need to defend myself, to explain, to make people understand. That's what the old Grace would have done, written a long post, provided context, begged for understanding. Instead, I opened my laptop and wrote exactly one email. To sadie.holloway@gmail.com, cc aiden.holloway@gmail.com, sarah.holloway@gmail.com, subject, legal notice. Attachments, Aspen Incident Report.pdf, notice to vacate.pdf. The incident report was beautifully official, Mr. Murphy's signature at the bottom, the hotel's legal letterhead at the top, and one particularly relevant line highlighted. Security footage confirms Miss S. Holloway initiated physical contact by grabbing Miss G. Holloway's personal property. Video evidence retained for potential legal proceedings. The eviction notice was even better. 30 days to vacate, property listed for sale, residency rights terminated. My message contained one sentence. I don't argue with liars. If that defamatory video is not deleted within 10 minutes, my lawyer will subpoena the hotel's security footage and file a lawsuit for assault and defamation. The clock is ticking. A. I pressed send at 6:47 p.m. The video disappeared at 6:55 p.m. I poured myself a very expensive bourbon and toasted the empty apartment. They moved out 3 weeks later. I changed the locks the same day and put the place on the market within a week. It sold in 48 hours. Turns out, luxury apartments in that building don't stay available for long. The winter snow of Aspen has long since melted, replaced by the humid, vibrant heat of a Chicago summer. Yet the clarity I found in that cold mountain air hasn't faded. It's been 5 months since the incident, and when I look at my life now, it's unrecognizable in the best possible way. Holloway Design Group landed 2 major contracts, a boutique hotel renovation and a private residence set to be featured in Architectural Digest. I bought a south-facing house in the West Loop, all exposed brick and original hardwood floors, and renovated it exactly to my specifications. No compromises. No, but what about when family visits considerations? Just clean lines, flooded with natural light, and a home office with custom built-ins for my drafting table. I haven't given my family the address. My parents are renting a small apartment somewhere on the north side. I'm not entirely sure where. They've been texting me through various relatives, calling me heartless and ungrateful. Aunt Linda sent a particularly aggressive message about how I'm abandoning my elderly parents and should be ashamed. I blocked her number. The truth is, I don't feel ashamed. I feel free. Still, lately I've been standing at a crossroads and I genuinely don't know which path to take. Option A, maintain absolute no contact. They're adults. They made their choice when Sadie grabbed my bag, when my mother called me an ungrateful monster, when my father stood silently in that lobby. They made their choice every single time they prioritized Sadie's feelings over basic decency toward me. Option B, buy them a very small, run-down condo in a distant suburb. Make sure they're not homeless, but never speak to them again. Fulfill one final obligation to the people who raised me, then walk away with a clear conscience. I keep thinking about that Cartier watch, still broken in my jewelry box. I'll never repair it, but I can't seem to throw it away either. So I'm asking you, what would you do? If you learned something from this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. You'll find new stories like this every day.